It was a heartbreaking decision. We had two things working against us. I actually found the love of my life during COVID.
Hi, you're listening to Everything is Personal by Fortis. I'm Victoria Belousova, Chief HR Officer at Fortis. Here I talk to successful professionals from tech companies. I want to find out what it did to build a career in Dubai. And I want to find out at what point everything went right. From game-changing decisions to lucky breaks, we uncover what made it all work. This podcast is proudly presented by Fortis, a company that bridged the gap between businesses and their digital-savvy customers. Welcome to the podcast, where everything gets personal. Today I will talk to Kunal Madan, the partnership manager at Verve Management. Originally from India, Kunal grew up moving around the globe. His artistic background led to creative outcomes in his career. Let's dive into his emotional story and insights. Hi, Kunal.
Hi.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. It's Saturday, but we are together working. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. So, let's start. Tell us about your family and your childhood.
Oh, where to begin? So both my parents are Indian. They're both from Delhi, New Delhi, the capital. My dad is of one religion. He's a Hindu, and my mom is a Christian. So back when in 1980, when they fell in love, it was a bit unheard of, in terms of the culture and, the caste system and everything like that. But they fought for their love, and that's the precedent, and that's the foundation that they've grown, the house that they've set up, and how they grew us as kids. Don't fit yourself in a specific box. There's always ways to sort of, fight for love and fight for what you believe in. Growing up, I did spend my first few years of my life in India. Don't recall much of it, but very soon after, around the mid-90s, so about maybe 4 or 5 years later, again, I'll have to recollect. If my mom's listening to this, she's gonna be like, no, it was 1992. But somewhere around the 90s, I think early to mid-90s, we moved to Dubai as a family. My dad has always been in the hospitality industry, hotel management. So he was like in Bahrain for a while, in other places, and then he decided to settle in Dubai, and then we moved over as a family after that. So yeah, I was in Dubai for some time, and we then moved to America, but I don't want to go throughout. I mean, this is more of like the beginning of my childhood. I would say as I was like 8 years old and older when we were in Dubai and then moved to America, that's when I think I felt the impact, because I had a lot of friends in Dubai and then we were moving. So once I was there, it was quite interesting, because while we were in America, even though we were there for like a long time, almost about 9 years, we moved around a lot. We lived in different states. We were in Maryland, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York. So even when we were in America, we kept moving in different states, and I kept making new friends. And to this day, I'm very much in touch with those same friends.
Kunal, tell me please, how was growing up with so much moved around?
Moving around was, again, very much like a bittersweet thing. Bitter in terms of I never had one place to establish and call home. I always was moving around. There was no one particular place I felt like I belonged. And I can definitely say my brother felt the same way. As we were both growing up, that's one thing we definitely shared. But the sweet part was that I got so much exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I got to live in the Gulf. I got to live in America. I got to live in India. I got to have different experiences, meet different people, different walks of life. I felt like by the time I was 18, I lived the life of a 30-year-old. I was everywhere and yet nowhere.
Kunal, by the way, do you feel as a foreigner everywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. So the three main places I've lived would be, India, because I am Indian, UAE, because I've lived so many years here, and then America. These, I would say, are the three structural foundation, of places that I've lived. And in neither of them do I feel like I belong 100%. So there is a sense of like, I don't want to call it, I guess when I was younger, maybe an identity crisis. As I've grown older, I've just sort of embraced it and taken it as a positive. I've taken it in stride as, this is a part of me. This is who I am. So, at the end of the day, I am grateful for all the moving around. And if my parents are listening, I love you. I have no animosity.
I'm asking because sometimes when we evaluate the potential of any employee, we also take into account the mobility. Because, for example, if you want to develop your career, you should be ready to move to another country, to another regions, and etc. And is great plus to the candidate, to the employee.
Yeah, being able to adapt to new environments and new surroundings, both professionally and personally, is something that is a very good skill to have. I feel a lot of people, again, there's nothing wrong with it, but people who are just sort of in a comfort zone and never willing to step out of a comfort zone. I feel like there's a lack, for me personally, I cannot speak for everybody, but for me, it's a lack of growth. If you can't step out of your comfort zone, if you're not willing to at least try to adapt, you're never going to grow. You're just going to be stuck in a monotonous cycle of life.
Yeah, that's true. I do agree with you. Okay, so let's jump back to your childhood. What did you dream about in your childhood?
Cinema or movies has been a culture in our family. As kids, my parents would take us to the movies over the weekend. And especially, like, for example, if I did better on a test or an exam and I got better marks than my brother, or vice versa, my brother got better marks, we would pick the movie for the weekend. Which movie, whoever. So that would give an incentive to, let me try and ace this exam because then I can pick the movie. And as a kid, I fondly remember going, to see, Jurassic Park in the cinema, Lion King, a lot of Disney things, Mulan, Batman and stuff like that as well. And I would come home and I would have like dinosaur toys and G.I. Joe action figures and stuff. And I would recreate scenes from the movies with those little toys. And at that time, I realized I really had a passion and an affinity to cinema by watching it. And I wanted to, recreate it or something. So as a kid, I felt like there was always an attachment to film in some way, whether it's animated or live action. And I think that dream has always remained. As I mentioned, I did go to film school. I did work a bit in the film industry and stuff, and it's still very much a passion that I like to maintain. And who knows what it holds for me in the future. But that was definitely a big dream of mine. Also, I think because of Jurassic Park, I wanted to become an archaeologist for 1 minute, and then I realized that real dinosaurs don't actually exist.
So, Kunal, let's talk about your education.
My educational journey is like a trident. It's like a 3-pronged approach in a way. So, because my first phase of education was culinary school at Middlesex College in America, which I did. It was like a culinary program because I was very much interested in cooking and culinary arts and wanting to be a chef. My second phase was in Dubai. It was a bachelor's in fine arts. Doing, graphic design and creative advertising. Because my parents believed, while I should follow my journey of whatever I love and whatever I'm passionate about, it is also important to have a certain level of education, because it's a world standard. It's something that's hold of value. Obviously, I didn't want to do a bachelor's in business administration or architecture or something, because that's not who I am. I wanted to do something in arts, something creative, something visual, because that's what connects to me. So I chose it, and I'm glad I did because I met some really close friends. One of my close friends is from Uzbekistan, actually.
No, really?
His name is Ulug Murod Ergashev.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pronounced very correctly the name.
So I have friends who I made in American University of Dubai, who are now all over the world, but I'm still very much in touch with them. So tomorrow, if I want to go to Uzbekistan, I have a friend. If I want to go to Germany, I have another friend. If I want to go to Canada, I have another friend. Like, I have people everywhere, and it was a great journey for me to have. And then my third phase and final phase was the filmmaking school that I went to with a diploma in filmmaking. That was in Mumbai, which again, same thing, life is all about connections. I made more connections there and yeah, and here I am.
What did your family think about your university choice? Because, our previous guest, they shared this experience with the family. They always said that their parents wanted them to become doctors or engineers. So what about you? What about your family?
My parents, I think, given how they started and the journey they went through, they were very supportive of both my brother and myself in what we want to do. They said, look, as long as you're happy and you can create a life where you can be on your own feet and you're financially stable and you can build something, and happiness is the most important. So if it's not doctor or engineer, if it's whatever else you want to be, that's absolutely fine, which is quite rare from the culture and the generation that they're from specifically. And I am always very blessed to have the parents I have, because they were always very supportive.
Great parents, to tell the truth.
Yeah.
My respect to your parents.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your first job.
So right after film school, I did a lot of freelance work, did some projects here and there, because that's kind of how the film industry was. But the first major job I had after film school was with a company called Prime Focus Technologies. And I was part of the dubbing team. So we were like dubbing content from one language to another. So a lot of like Hindi content into English and a lot of French or English content into Hindi. We worked with, HBO, Warner Brothers, and a lot of different things. So I was mainly, because of my grasp on English, they assigned me as a dubbing manager for Hindi content into English. We were launching a series of channels in South Africa for a huge community there, so that wanted Indian programming but dubbed in English. So it was not filmmaking in the traditional sense, like I was not on set, with actors or anything like that, but it very much had the post-production aspect of filmmaking, because we were in studios, we were working with voice artists and dubbing actors, and there was a lot of post-production, sound editing, and this and that was there. Because working freelance, you never know when the next project's gonna happen, where oh, am I gonna pay rent and my utility bills this month? But then having this job at Prime Focus was really good, because it was more of having that stable life. And I was like, okay, so this is what it feels like to have like a stable income and like live a life and build a life here.
And how did you decide to leave it?
Apart from some personal reasons, one of the main factors was the financials. I will be very honest, as easy as it might be to say, oh, India, it's a lot cheaper to live there as compared to, Dubai or Tokyo or Hong Kong or somewhere, Singapore. Sure, but the bigger cities in India are still not cheap. Living in Delhi, living in Mumbai, or even Bangalore, things are very expensive, including rent, of course. So it was difficult for me to maintain a lifestyle that I was always used to, with the financials that I had. And I didn't want to, keep going back to my parents asking for, financial support and be like, oh, can you pay my rent this month? Or, I don't have this or that. So it was a heartbreaking decision, but it was a calculated decision for me to sort of leave that industry, at least temporarily. I felt like moving back to Dubai was an opportunity to have a clean break, a fresh start.
From scratch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Millions of talented Indians are thriving in different parts of the world. Just Google Stay in India, a podcast dedicated to non-resident Indian. They talk about navigating NRI life abroad, from finding the perfect job to smart investment strategies. Subscribe to Stay in Indian wherever you get your podcast. The link is in the episode description. By the way, how did you find your first job in Dubai?
My first thought was, let me apply for media-related jobs, something to do with filmmaking or media management or anything like that. So I did try for that, but at that point, the job market for those fields weren't so high because this was about 2015, early 2016. So there weren't so many jobs available. And of course, the only experience I had was some experience in India, which, maybe some of them didn't see as, they wanted more international projects or something. I'm not sure. So didn't really work well for me. It was a struggle. I'm not going to lie. It was not an easy phase in life. But a family friend of ours, he's worked in the event industry, and he said, I know you're into films and media and stuff, but, I know you've tried, but our company is hiring. It's something very different than what you're used to. It's essentially a sales job, client management, account management, and sales, but it's in events. I was like, okay, at that point, my idea of events was just, like wedding parties and stuff like that. He's like, no, these are very business to business, B2B events. I was like, oh, okay. So this is my first time being exposed in 2016 to this kind of world of events. And it was like all about like financials and investments and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, this is very interesting. And at that point, the crypto and the blockchain industry was booming, right? So there was a lot of events related to that as well. And I kind of fell in love. I'm not going to lie. I was like, okay, this is completely different from, filmmaking or anything close to that. But there's a level of charm to working in events and talking to new people every day, having clients and being on site at the event with them. And I mean, I worked in that job and in the events for a couple of years then. And then I worked on other sales and client management related jobs. And then I came back to events about 2 years ago again. So yeah, and I'm still here. I'm still very much in that chase of that passion of events. And it's fun because I'm always learning something new. Each event is different.
It's conferences and, business exhibitions, right? I mean,
correct.
such type of events.
Yeah.
I like it, to tell the truth, because, it's completely another atmosphere, right?
Exactly. And for me, each event is different. So I work on one event for maybe 4 months. Sometimes there's a lot of pre-planning way before, but actively I'm working on an event for 3 to 4 months. But each event is very different. One is like property, technology related. One is, modellandscapes and landscapes related. One is customer experience and loyalty. One is about Future Bank Summit. Like they're very, very different topics and different industries. We even have like a Women Leaders Summit, which I worked on. And I'm always learning new things. And that's like something that I really hold dear, that no matter how old you are, no matter how far you get in your career, if you stop learning new things, you're stunting your growth. Again, it'll be going back to the whole growth aspect. But you really are, like, every day I try to make it a point where every day I have learned something new. At least one thing. I mean, if you really think about it, you probably learn about 20, 30 different things every day, something new. But I try to make a conscious effort that I'm learning at least one thing new every day, because otherwise then that day has not been productive.
Yeah, that's true.
That's another reason I like the events industry, especially when you're working on different types of events, because you're learning new industries. You're talking to people from...
You have this opportunity to be involved in it, right?
Yeah, I'm talking to people globally. They're people I've spoken to who are all the way in like California, all the way in Australia and New Zealand, all the way, all over the Middle East and Asia and Africa. So it's like I'm talking to people from all over the world. I'm understanding people's perspectives about different industries, and I'm kind of getting into their headspace, and it's actually fantastic. It's such an exciting thing to have.
Yeah. That's true. I have the information that you also worked with your father, right?
Yes.
How was it to work together?
So I have a very good relationship with my parents. So working with my dad was never an issue. Like I never saw that as an obstacle, whereas a lot of people might see that. It depends on your relationship, I guess. So I've actually worked with my father twice. One in my early years in the US. We had a cafe, like a cafe restaurant called Andrea's Cafe, named after my mom. My brother, my dad, and we all worked together, and we had, of course, other employees. I was more working as because I went to culinary school at that time, or I was actually attending culinary school at that time. So I was working as like an assistant chef. It was just very chill, very easy for me to do. Also, I was still very much a teenager, so I was not being so serious about my, career at that time. But the next time when I was a lot older and my dad was setting up a company and I helped him set up and everything and we were working on things together, that was a lot different because there was a lot at stake. I had left my job to do this venture with my dad. We were essentially a startup. It was hospitality management and consultancy and stuff that we did. And things were going well, things were taking off and, we hit the ground running. It was going well. But unfortunately, an external factor kind of messed things up. COVID-19 happened and, we had two things working against us. One, we were a startup. And two, we were in the service industry and hospitality. Both of those were hit very hard during COVID. In the beginning, everyone thought, 3 months, 6 months, it'll pass. But no one could have, understood or no one could have predicted that it would have gone on for so long. And for our family as a startup, it was impossible for us to, stay in business and stay afloat, unfortunately. So we had to, close down the company and move on.
It's hard time, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was difficult, but you live and you learn. It was definitely a learning opportunity, and the aspect and the perspective I have in life is very much from my dad. My dad now, almost 65, he still works and he still has a passion in working, and he never has given up. He's always very much motivated, and that's what instills me. I see him and I'm like, if he can be motivated at that age, what's my excuse? I should definitely, keep going and pushing myself and stepping out of my comfort zone and doing whatever I can to better my life.
Yeah, it really was hard time, but I think, all of us, we learned something, important. Yeah, from this time. By the way, what did you learn from that experience when the company went, let's say, bankrupt?
No matter how much you plan, you can plan for all different contingencies, all different possibilities and outcomes. There will always be a curveball in life that'll be thrown at you that you have not predicted, that you have not anticipated that it would come your way. No one saw COVID coming, no one predicted that, this is going to come and cripple the entire world for like 2 years. No one had even dreamt that would have happened. It was a scary time. The one takeaway I have from that's I would say a very positive takeaway is I actually found the love of my life during COVID, who I'm now married to. So we actually met during COVID, unfortunately at a time where my dad and we had to close down our company and move back to Delhi to just sort of, reassess our situation and what to do, next steps and everything. At that point is when I met her and I was like, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And she's like, oh, no. And then in 14 days, we met 11 days because we were just very much, in love and very much wanting to see how this would grow. So I would say that's probably the most positive takeaway from it is like, I found my best friend and the love of my life out of COVID. As silly as that might sound, but then, yeah. And then I was in India and she was still here in Dubai, and we did, basically long distance. We were just on Zoom for like 5 months. And then she said, come move back to Dubai. Just, we'll make it work. We'll do something. We'll figure it out. Just come. And then I came and I never left. I'm still here and we live together. We're married and, yeah.
as normal reaction at this time, like this. So nice. So nice. My congratulations that you have this, your love and at the same time your friend, the friend of you, right? Yeah. So it's very important.
I think, it's, if you end up marrying your best friend, I think that's a very good thing because
that's true.
she's my best friend. Like, I love hanging out with her. Like, every day is not like a pressure of we need to set up date night, and we still do very much romantic date nights and stuff like that. But it's just, we just love spending time together, just chilling and hanging out. Like,
it's important.
Yeah, because that's how the bond will grow. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
So how did you find your job again in Dubai after moving to your girlfriend?
As I mentioned, we had to close down the company during COVID, moved back to Delhi. I had never really lived in Delhi in my adulthood, so I was there for a few months. And obviously the bond that me and her shared and what we had kept growing because we were doing, 10-hour Zoom calls with each other and stuff. So we were just, it was a very emotional connection, purely based on conversation and getting to know each other even more, to the point where she said, yeah, just come over. I'm on my spring break. At least let's spend a few weeks together and stuff, because she's a teacher. So she's like, come. I said, okay, great. So I came over, and then unfortunately, actually in my scenario, it was fortunate, not fortunate for most people though. India kind of went into lockdown because the COVID numbers were rising very high. It was like a second or third wave. So Indians could fly back, but tourists couldn't fly in. So she couldn't visit me. So that's why I came to Dubai instead. And she said, don't go back. And even my parents were like, it's risky. Like, we're just staying at home. We're not even going out of the house. Why don't you stay in Dubai longer, extend your visa or do something? And I was like, okay. And then at that point, me and my wife, now wife at that time, girlfriend, we said, okay, why don't we just start looking for work and figure things out from there? Just take it one step at a time. After COVID, I'm not going to lie, all my self-esteem went down. I was highly insecure from a professional standpoint because I was out of work for many months. I kind of lost my confidence in a lot of ways. But thankfully I wasn't alone. This is why I say she is not just my best friend, she's also the love of my life, because she stood by me. Without her, I wouldn't be able to be the man who I am today. She helped me grow back in being a better man than I was even before COVID. So when I was back, I was just, looking for jobs on LinkedIn and stuff like that. And I gave a few interviews, and I took a job, which was very different than what I normally have done in the past. It was sales related, but it was working in a law firm. I didn't really have too much knowledge about law, but I dealt with it because okay, it's a job. It's something, for me to, be here and build a life with her. And she was always there, just, supporting me in every way and believing in me. And I knew I had to start kind of low on the ladder and just sort of take one step at a time to where I am now today. And, I've grown a lot professionally and in my career, and it is thanks to her. I mean, of course, I'm not saying I shouldn't give myself credit. Of course, my hard work and my efforts have got me here, but it would have been nothing without her support. So, yeah.
I want to say once again that you're lucky that you have this woman next to you, because she's wise. And that's why, you have this great support, and she's brave. Because, it's very important to have the support from your wife or husband. Together, you are the power.
That's what I always tell her. I always tell her that, we're a team. It's us against the world. It's you and me together. Whatever obstacles, whatever ups and downs we face, it's always us. We're always by each other's side. We're never going to be alone. It's always us.
Oh, so great. What was the most difficult in the events sphere for you?
What was the most difficult was me coming back into events. So from 2016 to 2018, 19, I was in events and it was going well, and I left it to do, the company with my dad. So I was away from events from 2019 till 2022. So those years, I didn't know what was happening in events, what was going on, what was the trends, what's new, what's old, whatever. When I came back into events, it felt like I was starting from scratch. So I would say for a while, coming back into events, it was a bit difficult. I felt like I needed to learn how to ride a bike, learn how to swim again, just go through the motions, relearn the foundational skills. But then once I did, I was like, oh, I remember this. I remember why I love this. And then I just, continued.
Great, great. You have worked in different spheres and roles, right? So how have your previous roles helped you in your current position?
I'm gonna say it without sounding too much of a salesperson, I guess. But there's a saying that they say that every industry is sales. You can look at pharmaceutical industry; it is very much sales. Technology, because you are selling a product or a service, so everything involves sales. So I feel like while I have worked in very different industries, from filmmaking, hospitality, a law firm, events, of course, and others that I might be forgetting right now. But the one consistent thing I've always done is the sales aspect of it, sales and client management. That's one thing I enjoy. I feel like nobody enjoys sales. What they enjoy is talking to the people. And that's where the more client management aspect comes in. You're handling an account, you're handling a client, you're talking to different people, you're understanding their wants and needs and trying to see if you can identify how to make it better for them, how to make it easier for them. So I feel like as I've grown from my first job as a teenager, when I was selling, there was actually a summer job. It was called New York Water Taxi. I was literally selling tickets to a water taxi in New York City that was going from the East Hudson River around the island of Manhattan. And that was actually my first job. I was selling tickets, but it was sales and I was meeting people. As I was issuing tickets, people were asking me questions. Oh, does this go to Staten Island? Can we see the Statue of Liberty from here? Can we do that? So I was having conversations with locals from New York, with tourists from outside of America, from tourists within America. So, and I realized that there's an art. There is an art to speaking with people. There's an art to having conversations with people, identifying a client's needs. So that is a skill that I've always tried to keep and keep growing in every industry I've worked in to where I am today. And there's still very much growth for me. I'm not saying now where I am today, this is the pinnacle and I don't need to grow further. No, absolutely not. Where I am today is probably the best I have been in my professional career so far. But there is very much growth that is going to happen beyond here. I still have a lot more of a fight in me. I'm still only 34. There's a lot more growth for me to do and a lot more for me to learn in the next 30, 35 years. So, yeah.
Right now, you are working as a partnership manager, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the key skills. And my question is, what are some key skills that are critical for your current role?
Key skills, I would say, definitely is conversational skills. Being able to have a conversation with someone. Sure, you are basically trying to do sales. You're trying to get someone to understand why this event might be important for them to be a part of and all of that. Great. But at the end of the day, you want to have a conversation with them. You don't want to sound like a robot just delivering dialogue. You want to have a proper conversation. You want to identify what their company does. You want to identify what they need. Having conversational skills, by that I mean, not just knowing how to speak, but knowing how to listen. So you need to always be able to think on your feet, because in this industry of events, everyone gets a sales pitch. But more important than having a sales pitch is also knowing when to improvise, because when you're having a conversation with someone, you don't know what they are going to say. Based on what they say is how you need to reflect. You cannot ignore what they've said and then just keep reading. So being able to have proper conversational skills, analytical skills, listening skills, being able to improvise and think on your feet, these, I think, collectively are the skills that are required and that will help you excel. in a field like this in events. And also just having an open mind and a hunger for knowledge. Everyone has a hunger for money and wanting to, make a commission or make a sale or whatever. But a hunger for knowledge is what will help you get a sale, because if you are willing to actually understand what they do, what their company does, what their solutions are, they will actually open up to you. You ask them questions. Oh, wow. Okay. So your, omni-channel platform does this. How does that work? How do you integrate this? You actually ask them questions. You understand and research about what they do, and they will open up to you. And I've always told this to people I've worked with and stuff, and even teams where I've handled a team before. I've told them that no one will work with you if they don't trust you. People will only trust you if you have a conversation with them. Don't try and sell them. Have a conversation. They will trust you. They will understand. And if they feel like it works for them, they will partner with you. They will work with you, and they will, join hands in a joint venture or whatever it may be. And this can be applied in a lot of, fields, a lot of work, not just in events.
I agree with you. Right now you made some like small masterclass for effective communication. At Fortis, we believe that our strength lies in our diversity. With a multicultural team spread across the globe, we have the unique opportunity to celebrate a variety of traditions and holidays. One of my favorite memories is from last Ramadan, where team members from different cultures joined in to break the fast together. It was a heartwarming experience that brought us closer. We also make it a point to celebrate and exchange presents for the other important days like March 8th, International Women's Day, where we recognize and appreciate the incredible women in our team. These moments remind us that while we may come from different backgrounds, we're united by our shared values and respect to each other's cultures. So, another question. We were talking about some, differences between the environments in India and Dubai. Let's talk about it more. Okay. So what was the biggest differences between work environments in Dubai and India for you?
India has, I would say, a pretty universal environment. Most companies are the same. They have a certain way of doing things, and whether it's the small companies or the medium or even the large enterprises, they have mostly a pretty similar way of working. Some are now a bit more Western, especially like, international companies that have like a regional office in India or something. They have a bit more of a Western ideology of work ethics or work management style and stuff. Dubai, on the other hand, is quite a mix, and it's kind of good in a way, because you will have companies that are run in a very British way, or maybe an Irish way, or a Russian way, or a Chinese way, or an Indian way, or a Pakistani way, or an Emirati way. They're different, and everyone has a little bit of a different approach. So I feel like every job you end up joining, you never know what the management style is, because depending on the regional head, that's how the office is going to kind of be run. The work environment I have is very different than my wife, because my wife, being a teacher in a British school, is a very different work culture. Again, it's run in a very British way, because it's a British curriculum, British school with a lot of British or Irish teachers, whereas my company is a mix. We have a lot of Indians and Pakistanis, some Arabs, Egyptians and stuff. So it's a bit of a mix, and it's a bit more hectic because it's events, it's a sales environment. Things are a bit more, it's much more loud. Her job is loud, but not because the teachers are loud, it's because the kids are loud. My job is loud because the employees are loud. So yeah. But it's nice. It's nice to be in like different environments. And when we come home, we talk to each other about our workday, and it's always good.
Great. By the way, do you cook right now? I mean, in your life?
Yes, both my wife's a very good cook. Sometimes I would say better than me, even though she did not go to culinary school, but don't tell her I said that.
Okay. We'll cut it.
No, she's actually amazing at baking. Baking is a skill I never learned. I was more into like baking as in cakes and pies and muffins and stuff like that. But I cook other things, whether it's on a stove, stir fry, or even like lasagnas and stuff like that, like different things. But yeah, we both very much have a passion in cooking. And even though we both work, we still make the time to cook. During the week and especially on weekends. Weekends are like our meal prep days. We prep a meal for the week.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Kunal, do you remember the moment in your career journey when you felt proud?
Oh, this is a tough one. We've all had successes and failures in life. That's a part of life. It's the journey of life. But you should be proud of what you've done. I feel not having a sense of pride will ultimately hurt you, like how I said before about my self-esteem and my confidence after COVID, being unemployed. That hurt me. But in moments like that where I couldn't remind myself, I had someone to help remind me. So for me, there are many moments where I've been proud, whether it is I got a really good paycheck and I was able to buy the engagement ring for my wife without her knowing, and like she didn't know when I was going to pop the question, and then us planning a trip to go to Georgia and then me proposing to her in Georgia. And that's a big moment of pride for me, because without my professional career and what I was able to do, I would not have been able to afford all the necessary steps after that.
So everything is personal. That is true. Today I have very, emotional recording, to tell the truth, because we were talking about very important things. Thank you, Kunal.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate being a guest and having this opportunity to be here.
Yeah, it was great. It was Everything is Personal by Fortis. We help businesses thrive in the digital world, turning their dreams into reality. Fortis commits to supporting and involving alongside entrepreneurship in the MENA region. Interested in joining our team? Subscribe to our LinkedIn page at Fortis. The link is in the episode description. Listen to Everything is Personal on Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, Castbox, Spotify, and whenever you listen to the podcasts. Add us to your favorites and leave your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. This podcast is produced by Hedgehog Podcast. Executive producer Alexandra Volkova. Producer Daria Sannikova. Editor Livia Stivo. Sound engineer Mikhail Vasilyev. Composer Ksenia Kazantseva. Cover illustrator Brian Sun. And I'm your host Victoria Belousova.
Hey, do you remember when Victoria mentioned second podcast by Fortis? I'm Isaac, the host of that show. Things haven't gone as I expected. I'm divided between pursuing my dream of starting a business and working for a company while learning from other entrepreneurs in Dubai. I'm not sure how this journey will end, but I invite you to explore it with me. In Crossing the Desert, we tell stories of how businesses are being established and growing in the Emirates. You will hear about my experiences and the inspiring journeys of ambitious dreamers who came to the Emirates with their background, ideas, and hard work, changing the world step by step. Check out the link to Crossing the Desert in the episode description.